When you're walking around in the jungle, there are so many different things that you need to look out for, and you always need to be aware of your surroundings. There are a lot of different bugs, animals, and even plants that can inflict serious pain onto your person if you're not careful. In today's video, we'll go over what happens when the world's most painful plant stings you, and other dangerous things in the wilderness to watch out for. Ready to join the finest squad? Then make sure to subscribe with notifications on so you don't miss any of our interesting videos ever again. That being said, let's begin. Australia's poisonous plants. If there's one thing that Australia isn't a stranger to, it's hosting a lot of dangerous things that can kill you or cause serious bodily harm. People aren't joking when they say that the entire continent of Australia is one giant death trap. Yeah, that even includes the plants. Everything from the stinging tree plant, which is known as the world's most painful plant, to other poisonous plants that can actually kill a full-grown sized human if they're not careful. There are dozens of deadly plants in Australia, and a lot of tourists don't know what to look for when they go exploring. However, there are over 1,000 species of plants in Australia that are known to be toxic not only to humans but to animals as well. The majority of these species aren't too bad, and all they'll do is cause some mild discomfort, but if they get toxins into your eyes, it can cause a lot of pain. Plants can't run away and they can't adapt well, so over time they build up toxins to help ward off predators and to stop things from eating them. It works pretty well for the most part, until the predators evolve to accept their toxins and poison. So basically, Australia is what would happen if you took the concept of survival of the fittest and made it into a horror movie. The world's most painful plant. The most painful plant in the world grows in Australia, as if that's really a surprise to anyone. They're more concentrated in South Wales, but other parts of Australia might contain them as well. They're more commonly known as stinging trees. They were first discovered in the 1860s when miners were mining near the area that these stinging trees are now found in. We can only assume that they gave them the name from experience, and we genuinely feel bad for the first people who had to find out why they had that name the hard way. They were first called the Gympie bush. A scientist who's been stung by this tree painfully described exactly how it feels to be stung. He stated that once he was first stung, the pain immediately set in, and it was almost like being stung by 30 different wasps at the same time. This, however, wasn't the exact stinging tree that we're talking about. This was from a different family of tree. When he was stung by the actual stinging tree, he stated it was the worst pain he had ever felt, and it was like being electrocuted and burnt with acid at the same time. Holes in the trees. One thing scientists wanted to discover and figure out was what exactly was eating away at these stinging trees. The leaves from these trees often had various holes in them, and we can't quite imagine that bugs would feel good chomping down on the leaves, so what exactly was eating these things? Or are they so painful that they're eating away at themselves? This presented a challenge to researchers because they couldn't even touch them without an immense pain setting in that could almost paralyze you. These trees tend to grow where a little bit of light shines through. They don't thrive well in an area where there's a lot of sunlight, and they don't thrive at all when there's no sunlight whatsoever. So a little bit of natural sunlight has to shine through for the survival of these plants. There are 7 different species of these stinging trees in Australia. They can be very small, or they can grow up to be huge, and these leaves are just covered to the brim with tiny little hairs that sting the ever-loving crap out of you. Would you touch one of these leaves to see how it feels if you were dared? How the leaves sting you. For a while, researchers wanted to know exactly what it was about these trees and these leaves that left such an impact and hurt so bad. If you were to touch one of these leaves with your bare hands, which isn't something anyone should do, you would immediately feel the impact. Over every single inch of the leaf, there is a ton of tiny little hairs, and all of these little hairs contain a powerful amount of toxin substances inside of them. There is no safe place to touch these trees because they heavily cover every single part of the tree and all of the leaves. They even cover the entirety of the stem, So handling these leaves is a super delicate process, and you have to wear thick gloves, because latex gloves will not protect you if you put your hands on them. The little hairs themselves don't look too harmful, because when you first see them, there's a bunch of little hairs and they're everywhere. It almost looks soft to the touch, and this may allure some people to touch them. Well, hopefully now you know better. The stems are always rather short, but the leaves are always rather large. Can stinging trees kill you? Technically, you can be killed by a stinging tree, but it's not because of the toxins themselves. If an animal gets stung by a stinging tree, the pain will more than likely kill the animal, and the toxins may very well kill the animal if it's a small animal. However, stinging trees do not typically kill humans. They just try to. If you do get stung, you'll feel an immense amount of pain, and generally speaking, so if you do get stung by one of these trees, then there's a couple of things you could do. First of all, you won't have access to clean water, so some people like to carry around waxing strips that can actually pull hair out. This is a smart thing to do because if you properly apply the waxing strip, it can pull most of the hairs out of your skin and it'll relieve a lot of the pain temporarily. If you can get home, clean your hands in warm water right away and do it thoroughly. If you don't get the hairs out, they can sting you for up to a year. What was eating the leaves? While many researchers at first disregarded that bugs could possibly be eating these leaves because no bug would be able to withstand the toxic venom, as it turns out, it was actually a bug among some other small insects. The first and most notable suspect is the leaf-eating chrysomlid beetle. These beetles are leaf eaters, and they may not be superhuman, but they do possess the capability to resist the toxin. Also, there were other leaf-eating insects that liked to chow down on this deadly plant that were able to withstand the toxin and wouldn't be affected by a simple touch. This doesn't really answer any other burning questions though, because as the plant has evolved, why would it not evolve to the point where it doesn't allow other insects to chew on it? The black bean. Contrary to the name, this isn't the kind of bean that you'd want to put on your food. The black bean is a flower that's exclusive mostly to the Queensland area and to some New South Wales areas. It's also called the Moreton Bay chestnut, and you can mostly find it along the riverbanks in the soil. Also, there are reports of people finding this flower along the mountainside and in some rainforests. It's usually cut down because it's in turn used for lumber. This is one flower that you probably won't care if it goes extinct. So the actual flower or stem itself isn't really toxic, and there's nothing to worry about if you touch any of them. However, during the spring season, they tend to grow these large bulbs, which are large and yellow. Inside of these little bulbs are little pods. If you eat any of these pods, you will quickly regret it. Your stomach will churn on the inside and you will vomit a lot. You'll also more than likely have diarrhea, and you should consult a doctor right away if you happen to ingest one of these pods. But they're not really dangerous during the winter. Strychnine tree. This tree goes by many different names. The most common names are the Nux vomica, the poison nut, the semen strychnos, and the Quaker buttons. We're not really sure about that last name, but that's a name that a lot of people of Australia gave to it. This isn't a relatively large tree, it's considered a medium-sized tree. It's usually found in certain areas of Australia, and there are some found in Southeast Asia. This particular tree isn't really that poisonous, it's more what grows on the tree. The tree grows some alluring-looking oranges, but you might want to be careful if you want to pick some of the oranges off of this tree. That's because the seeds contained in the oranges that grow from this tree are extremely poisonous. It's actually some of the most poisonous seeds that come from an orange all over the planet. They are considered a neurotoxin, and if they're eaten, they can actually shut down the body's nervous system, resulting in paralysis and death. Angel trumpet. The angel trumpet is a rather beautiful flower if you take a look at it from afar. Even up close, the flowers look very alluring, but these are some of the deadliest flowers in Australia. They are medium-sized trees, and sometimes they can also grow on shrubs. The trunks are usually very thin, and the flowers usually only grow in red, but some others have been seen to be a mixture of white, orange, and pink. While these flowers look very pleasant, they definitely should never be eaten or touched for any reason. If you do eat or touch them, they contain a lot of toxic materials in the leaves and in the seeds. They can completely paralyze you from the neck down, they can cause you to spasm, they can give you diarrhea, headaches, they can cause delusional confusion episodes, and they can even kill you. The deadly nightshade. Now, the name of this plant should be a huge hint, a dead giveaway even. You should not ever eat this plant. Don't even touch it. The name has deadly in it, and it's also known by a couple of other names, such as death cherries and devil's berries. Again, we want to clarify that you should probably never eat something that's called death cherries. The trees for these deadly flowers grow quite tall. If you ingest just one leaf, it can kill a human. You should avoid touching these plants at all costs. Also, if you eat the berries, just one or a couple won't probably do too much harm, but it's better safe than sorry because more than a handful of them have been harmful and sometimes even fatal to humans. Why do you think everything in Australia wants you dead? Have you ever encountered any of these deadly plants? Also, check out our other cool stuff showing up on screen right now. See you next time.